participatory. We plan to show no mercy, basically.
Hold up to your face.
Okay, I didn't want to say that. But yeah, we are. We can be argumentative. So. Never. So grab your pizza, grab a Coke, pull up a chair, and
You can come closer if you'd like. We don't bite.
thank you. You guys want to say your names again?
Yeah, I'm Shane. I'm from Toronto, Canada.
I am Yoel. I'm from San Diego, California.
I'm Or. I'm from Israel.
I'm Roja. I'm from China.
Yeah. Thanks, Chip. Sorry, I didn't know.
Great. So thanks. We're really excited to be here. Over the last week, we've had our finals, and unlike traditional universities where we'd be cramming for exams, we're really tasked with bringing everything that we've learned over the last year together. So we're all undergraduates at Minerva. We just finished the first ever year of this university, and we're all founding class students there. So for our finals presentation, we were given the prompt to come up with a proposal for a nonprofit organization with a global mission. And at Minerva, we are always talking about these principles of the science of learning and trying to rigorously apply it to every facet of our education. And another big part of Minerva is accessing the information online that can use to supplement our education. We're encouraged to be self-directed and to find those things. So this project was really born out of the idea of how can we bring those two things together. Yeah? Of course. I'm sorry. So this project was born out of the idea of how can we bring those two things together, these supplementary materials we use for class that are key to our education, as well as these principles of the science of learning. So this project is all about applying those principles of the science of learning to Wikimedia sister projects. So to give a little bit of background information about Minerva, like I said, we're a reinvented university experience for the 21st century, and we believe that that's comprised of three main components. The first is a global experience. So we start off our first year of university in San Francisco, and then after that we travel to a new world capital every semester. We live in 7 different world capitals by the time we graduate. The second key part is critical wisdom, and we'll talk about our pedagogy and our curriculum. Like I said, we really take advantage of information which has been made ubiquitous and free for us, so we don't engage in any lectures. Instead, we have fully active learning seminars, which are done through an online forum called the Active Learning Forum, which has been developed internally through Minerva. So we engage in small engaging seminars, again, using these principles from the science of learning to guide the way that we facilitate these activities. And the last part is that it's accessible. This is really, most institutions in the United States, we do things differently, from our admissions process to our low cost of tuition, which is only $10,000 a year. And that's really reflected in our founding class, which comes 80% from outside the United States. So the key building blocks of our curriculum are made up of habits of mind and foundational concepts. So while most traditional American colleges have been built on top of great books curriculums, we try to teach great cognitive tools. So at a traditional liberal arts college where you might learn lots of subjects and hopefully pick up critical thinking skills by accident, we try to teach these things explicitly and on purpose through 2 main mediums. The first is habits of mind, which are cognitive skills that you practice so often across time and across contexts that become automatic when you need them. And the second is foundational concepts, which is fundamental knowledge that you can build on for any area that you go into. So we try to teach 4 core competencies at Minerva. The first is communicating effectively, which we teach through a multimodal communications class, which is about learning effective reading, writing, visual communication, and the like. The second is, I think, critically capacity under the formal analysis course, which is about deep training in advanced logic, rational thought, data analysis, and formal systems. The thinking creatively is brought in through an empirical analysis course, where you're really trained to think like a science, frame problems using the scientific method, engage in informed conjecture, and validate experimental methodologies. And the last core capacity is about effective interactions, which we teach through a complex systems course. And this is about understanding complex interdependencies, second-order effects, and how to intervene in unpredictable systems. So to kind of make this idea of HCs a little bit more concrete, we provided 2 examples. And there's about 100 of these HCs which we're introduced to in our first foundational year, which are then brought up through the rest of the curriculum. So an example from our complex systems class is about identifying and analyzing attributes of different complex systems. So like even applying it to this project, Wikipedia is a wiki, which makes it leaderless. You have many different independent agents following these rules, and being able to frame it as a system is one of the things you learn here. Another one from our formal analysis course, identifying when algorithms can be used effectively, which is huge for Wikipedia, understanding what can be automated by machine, what should be done by humans, and what could be done together. Yeah.
Cool. So we'll start talking about the project. And just to take a few steps back, we try to frame our idea inside some system. So we put a few websites on a graph. We took two scales. One is specific versus broad, and the other one is information versus education. Education being information that is easier to retain, to understand, taking it better to yourself, to your memory. Just so an example. Okay. New York Times, going all the way towards the educational side, and it's broad in the sense that it has pretty much all the news you can get. The other example is Vox. Vox is a service that gives you news as well, but it gives you also background and context in order to make it more easy to understand and to get better understanding of the news. That side, the information side, is pretty much what the internet was built for, a web of a lot of information. And it goes all the way from pretty specific nature and science, all the way up to Wikipedia being the broadest. The past few years, companies started to understand the potential that the internet has on education. We started seeing companies like Khan Academy, Coursera, Udacity, and so on. These are taking the full potential of the internet and giving really good educational tools to people. However, we saw that all the way up there, there's nothing. There's nothing that is both broad and educational. And we try to think how we can put something there. And if we try to take Khan Academy, for example, and push it all the way up, it means basically adding hundreds of thousands of videos to the website in something not really feasible. What is feasible is taking Wikipedia and pushing it to the educational side, adding tools that would allow better understanding, personalization of the content that you're reading, and make it more suitable for you to learn it. So we started thinking about Wikipedia. And we understood that Wikipedia is not the perfect place to do it. Wikipedia is an encyclopedia, it's a reference network. It's used not for learning per se. It's used for taking reference, getting the information, but not necessarily learning. We also saw that the Wikipedia community is a complex system, like Shane said before. It's a complex system, meaning that we can't just intervene it the way we want. We need to understand that the community has its rules, and we want to go along with the community and take it with us towards our goal. And it's something that we won't be able to achieve our goal without that community. So we started looking at other projects under Wikimedia, and we saw Wikiversity. Wikiversity aligns a lot with our mission in terms of providing good education for free for all. However, if you remember in the graph, Wikiversity is all the way in the specific area because it's mostly focused on content that can be taught in courses in either K-12 or academic context. So we believe that the way we can achieve our goal is building a new project under the Wikimedia Foundation, taking the information that Wikipedia has and other Wikipedia project has, and adding personal and active learning tools. We'll talk about those later, but the idea is to take the content that we already have, put it in the right context with the right personalized information, and allow better learning out of this. Also, we definitely need a community because this is a huge project and it's not something that we can obviously it can be done in any way alone.
So before we dive into the specifics of what we imagine Wikilearn to be, we want to talk about the opportunity. So obviously, there's an online education revolution happening right now. There's lots of hype around MOOCs and open courseware and new pedagogy at the flipped classroom. What we believe is happening is that these methods, which are more cost-effective and sometimes free, are starting to surpass traditional methods of instruction in terms of quality. And once the quality becomes better and it becomes cheaper, we see these things as inevitable, as kind of changing the way that we educate. And we don't think that this makes in-person education or offline education obsolete. We just think it will lead to new pedagogy. And a big case study of that is what we're doing right now at Minerva, where we use these information to supplement our education for in-person, or for live seminars and active learning. So how we plan to do this is that creating a sister Wikimedia project with the goal of creating a self-directed, broad, and personalized learning environment. So broad, again, is focused on that expansive content that Wikimedia has, and self-directed and personalized, we believe, is key for the learning experience. So we can do that utilizing Wikimedia's extensive information and using that as a foundation, and scaling on top of that active learning tools and recommendation features based on principles from the science of learning. So we'll dive into some of these principles from the science of learning. Our Dean of Arts and Science at Minerva, Dr. Stephen Coslin, is a world-renowned cognitive neuroscientist. He spent a large part of the last 3 years reviewing the literature and organizing the research behind the science of learning. And he's organized it into 4 main stages, from the time that you're kind of packaging what content you want to deliver, all the way over to the learner really retaining it and becoming proficient in what you want them to be learning. So the first stage, focusing on what's relevant, is really about providing this backbone. What is the prerequisite information that you can build off of, and how do you get that information that they need to be focusing on first and in order? The second one is about packaging it for storage. So what is the actual medium that they'll be interacting with it through? And then the third stage, getting it stored, is making sure that the learner is actively engaged. And this is where the fully active learning comes in. And the last stage, and this one's usually missed, is about cementing it. So anyone who's ever crammed for an exam can attest to, just because you've given this answer once doesn't necessarily mean you've mastered it. So cementing it is about practicing across time and across context to make sure that you really understand these things, that you become proficient in what you're learning. So we plan to achieve this through 2 main mediums. The first is a recommendation system, which tackles these first 2, getting the content which is relevant and packaging it in a format that's useful, and active learning tools for the process of user engagement and retention.
So in order to make, so now we'll go into a little more specific detail about what features we've imagined. So in order to make a truly individualized and personalized learning environment, each user would have to create his or her own profile. With this profile, what they'd be able to do is bookmark specific articles to add to a study list. We'd be able to give them a diagnostic test to measure their reading level and their level across different areas of content, so that we can specifically cater the content and the exercises to the individual user. With the personal profile, we can measure their progress over time, and we can recommend specific articles to them based on their interests or their learning goals. So all of this personal profile data that we can collect will feed into the 3 main features of Wikilearn: active learning tools, varied reading levels, and recommendation systems. I'll start by diving into active learning tools. So the purpose of these active learning exercises are to ensure that the readers and the learners are retaining the information and processing it in a way that they'll be able to keep over a long period of time. So the way that these exercises would be generated is similar to Wikipedia's current editing system, in the sense that they're created by the community for the community. The only difference is that they would be created based on these templates that we make based on principles from the science of learning. So what does that really mean? Let's look at a specific example. So depth of processing is a learning principle. It states that the more you think through, the more you actively process the information, the more likely it is to stick in your memory. So here's an example of a template. It says, is there enough evidence to support the claim behind the vaccination autism controversy? Why or why not? Forcing the learner to think through the material will cause them to really be able to retain the information in there. Deliberate practice is another very important learning principle. As we all know, it's very important to learn from your mistakes. So it's very important to get feedback on your responses to these exercises. And the way that we would do that is, again, through the community. Um, Users would be able to rate each other's answers after they submit their own. Last example of a learning principle, spaced practice. We all know cramming is a very ineffective way to study or learn anything. It's very important to spread it out over time and revisit concepts and topics over a long period of time. So similar to Duolingo, it would the system would tell the users after 3 months or 4 months to revisit certain exercises or concepts so that they don't forget it. So in summary, these exercise templates will be based on specific learning principles, and what that would allow us to do is scale these exercises to really any type of article or any type of piece of information. Two more examples of learning principles are breadth of processing, which has to do with connecting the information to things you already know, which is easy to make a template of. And then bar transfer is about thinking about things in different contexts so you can apply it when it's important. So again, in summary, these tools are really important to ensure that the people using this platform retain the information and are able to apply the same concepts in different contexts. Bar transfer is the holy grail of the science of learning, and this is key in order to ensure that they're able to do that.
Okay. So the next feature we were thinking about is called varied reading levels. So it's based on the science of learning, like one of the principles that it's called desirable difficulty, which means that say the text, like the materials and the assignments, if they are challenging enough but not too much, and that would kind of stretch your like ability a little bit. And in that process, you're able to reach the state of flow, which is a mental state defined as like kind of fully immersed and engaging whatever you're doing. And that is the best time where you can like get the information stored in your memory. And what it does is that it provides several different levels of reading difficulty for the users to choose from. Also the system would recommend like the most suitable level for you based on the user profile data. And how is it possible to do this? So we're pulling contents from Wikipedia and Simple English Wikipedia. But the users can also like continue edit and generate new contents into different levels. But at the same time, we feel like it's extremely important that we use technology to accelerate this process. So for example, in Wikipedia, there's already this content translation tool, which this picture is made out of. Yeah, so it helps like the collaboration between machine and human to translate like pages into new languages. So we feel like similarly, we can use different tools in natural language processing, such as text simplification, semantic compression, to either generate new contents to different levels or to like give suggestions for simplification. But either way, we're making sure that it has to go through like human editing and reviewing process before publishing. Because this is like sticking to the Wikipedia consensus that an unedited machine translation is worse than nothing. So that's it. And then we're moving on to the recommendation system. Oh, thank you. So the first part is called Topic Explorer, which is like a network made of articles. So this is based on the principles of making associations and also motivation, attention brought by self-directed learning. So it helps you explore and add new topics into the study list. And it also kind of visualizes like help you making associations and connections among those different topics. And the way to realize this is using a content-based recommender system. So the second, thank you. The second half of the recommendation system is called the knowledge map. So it's based on the principle of scaffolding, like the science of learning. One of the principles called scaffolding and cumulative knowledge. Cumulative knowledge means that you have to present the information in a way that builds on each other. And so before introducing a new topic, you need to know like the prior prerequisite knowledge. So what it does is that it visualizes in the hierarchical structure how this particular topic lies within the whole body of human knowledge. And it also gives you a prerequisite section right next to the article. So if you're not sure about this topic, those topics, you can say add to study list. And if you're and you can also quiz yourself on that to make sure that you understand those prerequisite knowledge before you go on to this page. And the way to realize that is, so Wikipedia portal is already categorized in this amazing hierarchical structure, and when we visualizes it, it's like a really beautiful tree shape, and it provides a very kind of good foundation to build the knowledge map, but it's not necessarily the same because the relationship between the categories and subcategories in the portal don't always align with the relationships between like prerequisite knowledge and the knowledge that come after that. So that's why we need to add in like user editing tools and machine automation to like supplement this process. So yeah, and so one example would just be that the users can go edit the prerequisite section on each page based on their like their own learning experience. Again, this is like the same idea of like we're pulling content, existing contents from Wikipedia and other Wikimedia projects, and kind of adapt them using a combination of human and machine to make it better, like make it more suitable for learning. And just to summarize, this recommendation system help you structure and organize and connect information so that you can package it like for storage. And the earlier varied reading levels feature would help you getting the information stored in your memory by providing a desirable difficulty. And that's all the features.
Yeah, just to recap, so this would be a new Wikimedia project that uses the information from the sister Wikimedia projects as a foundation for scalable learning and recommendation features. And these would be based on the principles of the science of learning. So we've been talking a lot now, and this is probably the most lecture-y thing we've done at Minerva all year. So we're really interested in getting input about how active learning tools can be implemented into Wikimedia, and also how this looks going forward towards learning tools with Wikipedia. So yeah, I think what we've really learned over the past decade from Wikipedia is that anyone can play an active part in the sharing of the world's information. We really believe that the same thing is possible for learning. We think Wikipedia is in a better position, and Wikimedia is in a better position than anyone to leverage their community, their information, and their spirit towards creating a place where anyone, anywhere can learn anything.
Thank you. So we know we just talked a lot at you right now, but it's not very Minerva to lecture. So we would love input. We would love questions. We would love to make it more of a conversation. Please.
We have a mic stand, or I can run around. I need to burn off that pizza. Mic stand, mic stand, mic stand, mic stand.
Awesome. I like a lot of the concepts you're presenting. I wonder if you put some thought into our history of privacy. I don't know if you're aware, but we don't keep users' logs past a certain time. So your concept of tracking users' progress through the system becomes an awkward situation from our privacy standpoint. We do it, I think, to protect the privacy of our users, to avoid ever being subpoenaed for that information. If I wanted to build a curriculum for how to build a bomb on your system, that's something government would be interested in. We don't want to have to be in the middle of that. Chris, if you've considered that a roadblock.
I would say that when we were initially looking at this idea, we thought like we could just scale these learning tools on top of Wikipedia. And what we soon realized was that that wasn't what Wikipedia was for. And there's aspects of the community and these things built in that some sort of top-down intervention like that probably would mess with a lot of things like that, like user privacy. So I think it's something we take into consideration. We're not sure, I guess, the technical details behind that, but I guess the idea of having this as like a separate project would allow for Wikipedia to stay how it is, while having something like this where users would, I guess, opt in to having their information, I guess, shared in that way, like it is on other sites. But that's a really good point. I guess we haven't thought about it too much.
Well, one, I'd like to say, really
creative ideas, and I really enjoyed hearing new ideas and things and possibilities. I work with the education team and also learning and evaluation teams. And I've spent a lot of time looking at education stuff in the last 6 months. And one of the things I've seen is about, and I've heard teachers complain about, is scalability of language. Is it right for students? You know, a middle school student can't read an article about Newton, really understand those processes. So there are other projects out there that are not part of our project, called Wikipedia, Wikikids, and those are for different age groups. But on the talk pages, there's a lot of discussion about deciding what language is right for different age groups. It sounds like your tools would be, would they adjust to students individually? And how, I mean, do you have a process or an idea in mind of how you sort of scale language or difficulty to different age students, and what sort of standards you would use to do that?
Yeah, so I feel like it's not necessarily like we kind of personalize for each person, which is very possible to do it. And I think what we're more talking about is kind of a combination of like using machine like automation to help the process of like user generated content into different levels. And I'm not sure if that's your question.
Yeah, we did research on different people doing this. One thing we came across was something called Newsella. What Newsella does is they post nonfiction news content, and then each person has a profile. And what they do is less on the machine side and more having journalists rewrite the articles at different reading levels. And as you're going through, it tests you on the content to see how well you're comprehending it. So that means anyone in a classroom can be reading the same article with a desirable level of difficulty, and that difficulty gets updated as they become more proficient in reading. So that's one more on the kind of manual side, where I guess what we talked about in this presentation we thought might be a little bit more scalable is using these different machine techniques.
Hi, yeah. So my question was more, have you thought of this beyond the English language? So there are many other language communities that don't have simple versions of them, and there are also community standards and norms around the type of language allowed on their wiki. And so if you have the absence then of this baseline, let's say of a simpler version, have you thought about the tools or how you would kind of work in that situation?
I think recently what we're very excited about is the like technology aspect where there's so many people who are doing like amazing things in like natural language processing, and it's not just in English but also expand to other languages as well. But at the same time, we feel so this project we were only talking about English Wikipedia, and I feel like in order to expand, there needs to be more like kind of like community consensus and other things like we need to take into consideration. But I feel like there are ways to do it.
Certain things like the active learning exercises would be easy to put into other languages because all we'd have to do is translate those templates, and then yeah, and then we would just be able to enter it into the articles that are made in the other languages.
Yeah, and I think we talked a lot about taking information from these sister Wikimedia projects, just using it and putting things on top of it. But I think there's also an opportunity for new materials to be developed and fed back into those projects like Wikipedia. So if schools are using this or different people are using this, this might create a new way for editing to happen through schools. Also, like we thought it was an interesting pedagogical opportunity to have people creating articles after they've gone through these learning tools, kind of like the highest, I guess, area they'd be able to in terms of their learning would be creation and being able to edit these articles. So I think that it also provides an opportunity maybe for this content to be translated, put into different reading levels, and then that to be fed back into other Wikimedia projects as well.
I have sort of two different sides that are related. One is if you've thought about the difference between top-level control, which it sounds like a lot of pieces of the work sort of has aspects of sort of like this is the path you go along, this is how it goes, and that obviously that would be a difference and a departure from what generally do. There's sort of no overarching editorial board. Then the sort of flip side of that is a more logistical one of if as you refine it, you want to propose it more officially, that process happens to the community. community sort of has to decide this is what they want to add. And the first part of that is that the bottom of every single one of your slides has a confidential, proprietary, all rights reserved slide, which I can tell you right now would end it completely if the community saw it. So have you thought about releasing all of this stuff more publicly so that you can upload it and start that conversation? Because that conversation can last a long time. Like if you've ever looked, I don't know if you've looked at our MetaWiki, our sort of local wiki, we have proposals for this. As you probably noticed, some of those proposals have been on there for a decade plus at this point. That one means that nothing dies, and so it means even if nobody is interested right away, it's not over. But it also means that starting the conversation early and thinking about it is useful.
Okay. Thanks.
To be completely candid, just with the slides, we were just using Minerva's slide deck for branding purposes. So I think that was just like the color scheme and stuff. So I mean, that's a really good point, and we should pay attention to those details, especially the community. And I think that's something that we've had to learn a lot about was the community itself over the last week.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely in our minds. We definitely want to use the community and to gauge their interest in helping us. As we said before, it's not going to happen without them. So yeah, about that, it's unfortunate. We didn't aim for that. But about the other parts, the first question, I think we aimed definitely to have everything open sourced. Our ideas, our knowledge will just be contributed and not top down. So giving ideas of how to use the science of learning or creating templates, it's all something that the community can build with us. Or for example, if we build, someone builds some sort of, let's say, activity that you put on, it's something that someone will develop it and allow others to use as well. So when they will create an article, they can use it and they can change it if they believe that that's the right way. So everything is shared and everything is open source. So there's nothing that is coming top down, just ideas that are also we'll happy to engage in the conversation and change them if it's the right way.
If I could just really quickly address the comment you made about kind of these stringent learning pathways. At the beginning, I think we were calling them pathways, and we changed it to a recommendation system because all of us use Wikipedia, and we've ended up on one page and had 50 tabs open. We really love that, and that's kind of the idea behind the pedagogy of the self-directed nature in our mission. We wanted users to create a self-directed mission, but for them to be supported, to understand. It just makes it easier for them to see progress and information. So if I want to go explore, we don't really discriminate based on content. Like they can go relate some far-off concept. I think Lila used the example of Katy Perry. Like they can just use to learn about Katy Perry, and just showing what things are connected to that, just to use as an aid, as a tool to kind of suggest things. But we really think that keeping alive that exploratory process, which is what Roger was talking about having motivation behind the learning, the self-directedness on the exploratory map that we showed, is really key and really kind of the point of what we're doing here.
Hi, my name is Leila. I work here in the research in the foundation, and thanks for coming. Thanks for coming by, and your presentation is great.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, no, I mean, we work with a lot of constraints, and like the way we solve problems is very constrained, and it's good to see how, if you're not in these constraints, what kind of creative ideas you come up with, and it's amazing to see that life goes on outside of here. Couple of comments. One thing that is not clear for me is whether Wikipedia should be involved in making educational material. This is something that is not obvious, and I want to leave it to you to think about. But for example, you can think that any of the MOOC classes can get content from Wikipedia and mix it with their own videos and make it educational for their students. Make it as broad, as specific as they need. Whether this needs to be something on Wikimedia property or not, that's a question that you should think about, and at least convince whoever you're presenting to why this has to happen on Wikimedia. The other comment is more of a pointer. Two comments I have. We are working on a project called Collections. Collections is supposed to help, for now, users on mobile to make a collection of Wikipedia articles. That a byproduct of that product is a way for us to understand if people are naturally inclined to make educational content available for each other. So we don't really put the seed, but they may actually end up doing that. So keep an eye on it. The other thing is about the varied reading levels that you mentioned. That's a project that I think it's an idea that many companies are involved in. And the last time I heard, like a couple of weeks ago, Google is working on it. They basically are thinking about some sort of a bar that the user can start like moving, and based on what the level on that bar is, it shows you different depth of content. So start with beginner and you can go deeper in content. Definitely keep an eye on the research for that. And then the last comment is, I know this is a very big bar, but making some sort of a prototype of what you have in mind can help a lot. My hypothesis is that you're going to run into a lot of theoretical problems, even aside from privacy concerns, which are complicated, but just a practical CS problems. You need structured data to be able to scale this. This is something we don't have, proper indexing. So having a way of prototyping this in a small scale can help you and help us understand better what are we missing and what we should solve for. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is great. Is this being recorded? Okay.
Yeah,
Just
great.
check.
If I could address one of the things really quickly about like why Wikipedia. When you go online to learn something, it's really unfortunate that it's usually siloed. So I learned biology is a completely separate topic from chemistry or from physics. The opportunity we saw with Wikimedia was that you have this expansive network of knowledge and being able to see how those things are connected. Instead of having this static curriculum that's specific, having this broad dynamic learning experience, which allowed the learner to go through and self-direct themselves, especially with these new pedagogical techniques being used, could be really, really valuable as a supplement for students to go deeper. So I guess that was the rationale behind like why Wikipedia instead of a MOOC site or a traditional education content provider.
We have more questions or comments rather. So one thing I've learned in the process of researching students working with Wikipedia is, the project you describe, and really any project that brings students in, the community is supporting them in some way, whether it's commenting on their work or producing more content for them. And there has to be something there for the community as well to make it a viable project. And I was wondering, maybe I missed it in the presentation, is there a space where students are contributing to Wikipedia? Are they getting involved in the content creation? And have you considered the value pedagogically of doing that, becoming knowledge producers as well as consumers?
So one of our thoughts about this was to create a system of some sort of gamification of the whole process, adding the idea of wiki points, wiki score, and create a system that will incentivize people to both be active while they're learning and also contributing. I mean, obviously, like Chen said, the top level of learning would be to contribute to the articles, and this way, ideally, that would be some sort of a way to judge your knowledge on a certain topic. If you contributed a lot to biology, you will have high level of wiki points or something like that. That will give you an incentive to contribute to articles, also maybe Wikipedia articles and so on. So it is possible to make some incentives along the way.
2 points on the gamification. One, you should check out Wikipedia Adventure. It is about a 1 hour long game to learn to edit, created by one of our coworkers along with me, so it's very cool. The second piece is, I do think you're going in the right direction there with creating sort of point that works with community motivation, and there are a lot of contests that you can study. I'll be I'll be producing some stuff on Meta in the next couple of months on that, so you can learn more about how those work and why people get involved and how to bring students into them. So do continue, look out for information.
Thank you so much.
One key thing that we saw here that might have potential opportunity is looking into education technology a lot. We saw there's a huge credentialization problem. Like you have things like Mozilla badges or these other things trying to create these credentials. But what's been most effective is usually you've been rated by a community. You have some sort of trusted, like I've done a good job and I've been recognized by these other people, like you might see on GitHub or something, and be able to have that in specific content areas on Wikipedia from creating strong content and being rated by the community and having like some sort of like LinkedIn director profile or something else. It's one of our less developed ideas, but definitely something I guess we talked about.
Hi guys, I have a quick question about the recommendation system, which it's really a cool idea. But with learning, a lot of things are very sequential. So I'm wondering how you're actually going to implement it. It seems like right now you're just looking at similar articles, but I I guess ideally you want the student to start at a certain place and end up at another place, right?
Yeah, so there are two parts of our recommendation system. The first part is the network. It's basically just making connections and associations, not necessarily in a sequential way. But there's a second part is like the knowledge map, where you can clearly see like what's the prerequisite knowledge for this article. And so it's like a kind of a combination of your personal interest and what it's supposed to be the kind of the most effective the sequence of like order of learning things. So that's why we have like two separate parts.
Okay, yeah, I saw the knowledge map and the list of prerequisites, but even within that, I guess it's just how you think about people learn. Like you said, maybe people are self-directed and just choose articles that are interesting to them, but maybe there's a theory about learning certain things, even in the prerequisites first in a certain order before hitting other things.
Right. That's a really good point. We're really trying to balance out like not if somebody has a drive to go learn all these different things, we're not going to stop them at all. I think that's kind of again like the key component of this is that if they want help, it's there. But that's a really good point. Thank you.
Quick question that we got a request for. It wasn't recorded in the beginning, so we'll just say that we are coming from Minerva. It's a school that we're all in the founding class of. The project is our finals project. We just did it in the past 2 weeks. And basically, it's an idea that we were happy to share here, and we're here to hear your feedback about it.
Just a quick point about gamification, and if you think about it, it's a collaborative thing that you guys are trying to do, and that has a natural tension with competition. So think about what that involves, and maybe allowing it for people to kind of like explore the idea of making that optional, and making competition optional. And it's not necessarily how everyone's motivated. A lot of people are just motivated by collaboration. Yeah. And further on that, just really, really interesting. I love all the thought into integrating and just extending slightly how things work. And one additional extension would be kind of thinking about different people and the way that different people learn, and having thinking about different tracks of auditory learning and visual learning, and dyslexic. I'm dyslexic, so having an open dyslexic font kind of option. I think that there's a lot of that built into Wikipedia, and you can leverage. But awesome stuff.
Thank you.
Since we're going to talk about gamification, while you're thinking about it, I know you talked about the sort of the wiki points and that kind of idea. I would think about how to do so in a more sort of long-term way. So when you look at gamification, the easy wins are always sort of some badges and stuff like that, but they don't last generally. So like when you're playing with an app, you'll get the badges, you're cool, but then you have to both keep adding them, but they also become less sort of fulfilling. But if you can make it sort of much more internal fulfilling thing to keep going, rather than just a competition, which are much more sort of short-term things. So like on Wiki, especially when they're creating content and sort of adding to it, which I actually think could probably work in really well if you're trying to sort of ingrain it into people. You're not cramming. Teaching is always, you have to learn it and understand it much more to be able to teach it to somebody and explain it to somebody, to simplify it. But then looking at like, well, how many people use it? Like one of the best things I've ever seen for people when, especially for images, but also text, whatever, is how many people have used it. Like that one image that they used, one of our former comms people who now works at Flickr, talks about how his whole Flickr account, he was really excited because it hit 1 million views recently. But the one image that he uploaded to Wikimedia Commons that's used on one of the templates that we use for computer science has been shown more to 50 million people, which obviously just such a different level of scale. It makes him want to put as many images as he possibly can on the commons and find cool places to use them. Because it's awesome that his whole selection has a lot of views, but that one image that got pulled aside, sort of a different level. So if you can drive that to people, like you've helped this many people understand, etc., that becomes a much longer standing.
Really awesome. Thank you.
Another kind of thing that should, as you engage on this road, you might hit roadblocks. Not necessarily you guys, but the movement to make Wikilearn happen. Technical roadblocks, let's say on real-time create the profile page or something like that and it doesn't exist. Don't hesitate to reach out. The infrastructure that we have everything built on is in some ways has dragons in certain layers, but we're all working on slaying the dragons and making it better. And there might be stuff you're not aware of, so keep engaging and don't get discouraged if it's random.
Thanks. Thank you so much. Well, we don't want to take up too much of your time. We really appreciate all of your feedback, your great questions, and I think we might stick around for 10, 15 minutes. If you guys want to come talk to us, we'll still be.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
They'll be back at the pizza table if you'd like.